people in your niche are hiring you because you make them feel something. Usually, that something is hope. It is the possibility of relief. No matter what service you're providing, no matter what it is that you're selling, whether it's editing or coaching or consulting or whatever, the reason that someone plunks down thousands of dollars for you to edit their dissertation or to help them establish a solid writing practice or to help them reorganize their career so that they stop hating their life and start having more time for their family or whatever it is, right? The reason that they pay you so much money to help them with these problems is because in your messaging and the way that you appear online, you show them that there is a solution to their struggles and that you can teach that solution to them.
Welcome to Leaving Academia, Becoming a Freelance Editor, the podcast. I'm your host, Paulina Cossette. In 2019, I was a political science professor who was fed up with the stress and hostility of academia, not to mention the low pay. I left my tenure-track job and went from barely surviving to thriving as a freelance academic editor. Today, I own Acadia Editing Services, an editing and coaching business that brings in 6 figures a year. In this podcast, I'll discuss the challenges of academia, what academic editing involves, and what life as a freelancer looks like. If you're willing to jump outside your comfort zone, it is possible to find joy, true flexibility, and a profitable and rewarding career as an academic editor. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to Leaving Academia, Becoming a Freelance Editor. I'm your host, Paulina Cossette. Everybody talks about finding your niche, and trying to narrow down your niche can be one of the biggest struggles for new business owners, especially if you're starting your business on your own without a community or a coach to support you. So today I am going to first talk about what niching down is not. Then I'm going to explain what I've observed while teaching nearly 100 academics how to start and grow their businesses. What are they struggling with? How do they finally figure out their niche? And then I'm going to give you a framework for how you can think about this. I've been developing a theory or a theoretical diagram in my head about what this looks like in real life. There's no business or marketing jargon. There's no salesy descriptions for you to follow. This is just my own academic theoretical picture of what I've observed in terms of what this process ends up looking like for me, as well as for people in my program, where I'm coaching them and helping them figure out how to develop their niche based on everything that I'm going to talk about today. So before we dive into that, one quick reminder, if you enjoy this podcast, if you find it helpful, please subscribe either on your podcast app or on YouTube. Please like and share these episodes and videos. And please leave us a star rating and a review, even just a phrase or one sentence on your podcast app, because it really helps the right people to find the show. Let's dive in. Okay, so what niching down is not. People in my program, Becoming an Academic Editor or Coach, which we call BAE, when they're starting out, they often struggle with the very counterintuitive nature of niching down. When you're first starting your business, you come to me and you want help figuring out what to do. And I tell you, and other coaches will tell you, you have to figure out what your niche is. Who are your ideal clients? And something I tell folks in my program is that you can't be for everyone. You can't just call yourself a dissertation coach and think that alone is going to work. You have to really get as specific as possible in defining who you stand for, who you serve, who you want to help. And the natural reaction is to say, but Paulina, if I say I'm a dissertation coach for moms who are struggling in grad school, which would be a great specific niche, no one else is going to hire me, right? That's the worry. If I say I just coach moms on their dissertation, there's going to be all these people coming to my website and they're going to see that and they're going to go, oh, I'm not a mom, or I'm not a woman, or I'm not writing a dissertation. And so therefore I shouldn't hire this person. And I know that's what you think, but I can promise you from years of observing this in my own business since 2019 and in coaching almost 100 other people in their businesses, I can tell you that that is not true. What is true is that when you say that you're for everybody, when you say that you're a dissertation coach for grad students, for stressed out grad students, something vague like that, that's bland and that's boring. So, another way of looking at this is what I did when I was starting out. I thought, I was a political scientist. I had a lot of training and skills in survey research design. I was a great writer. I wanted to be an editor. And I thought I'll offer all of these things, all of these services. So I set up my website and I had a homepage and I had an editing services page and I had a survey research design page and I had multiple editing pages. So I had academic editing and I had business editing and nonprofits and organizations editing, all these different services pages. And looking back, I have to laugh at it because it's just funny to think about your own process and how you went about learning how to do this. But I can confidently tell you that that's a mistake, right? You do not want to offer all the services to all the people because then there is no clear message. You are not sending a clear message to the world about who you are and what you stand for. And I'll talk about later why this is so important. So, what I ended up finding when I was starting out is that even though I thought that I would end up being hired by all of these political scientists and all of these people who were working on statistics and all of these people who needed help writing surveys because I was so skilled and so talented in those areas, what I have since learned is that that kind of thinking draws on our traditional way that we think of ourselves as academics. Okay, so let me break this down a little bit so it's not confusing. In academia, we are constantly defending ourselves. We are constantly citing our credentials. We are constantly providing evidence for our arguments. And that comes from a very self defensive, self protective place. And so, what I have seen in myself and in my students, my community members, is that the initial way that people describe their niche, when people come into BAE, the first couple of weeks, we work on this very intensively in our cohort calls. And I ask people, okay, describe for me who your ideal client is, describe for me your niche. And they immediately go to listing their credentials. I'm a survey researcher. I'm a political scientist. I'm skilled at writing about the results of quantitative research, which is totally normal, right? Totally normal. But the thing that I am trying to convey to you and that I also teach in my program is that that is not what sells your services. That is not what makes people fall in love with you online and want to hire you, right? And spend thousands of dollars to hire you. Rather, what we're going to talk about today is what is it that really makes people want to hire you? What makes them fall in love with you and want to spend thousands of dollars on your coaching or editing or whatever? And that is your messaging, your style, your values, your personality, and how you make them feel, right? So, developing your niche is not about listing your credentials and saying, I'm really skilled and talented at X, Y, and Z. So, therefore, people who in those spaces, people in those subfields, people in those working in those research areas, they're the ones that are going to hire me. It's not an analytical decision, hiring an editor or hiring a coach. It's not an analytical decision. It is an emotional decision. It is the people who are out there who connect with you emotionally are the ones who are going to hire you. So, as I was saying, it's not grounded in credentials, it's grounded in finding your people and how you make them feel. So, if you're just starting out, how do you niche down? Well, if you're just starting your business, you probably don't even know for sure what exact services you want to offer to people or who you want to offer those services to. You may be like I was, and you may think, oh, I really love writing surveys. I'm going to sell all kinds of survey consulting services to people. And just a little caveat there, it doesn't mean that survey consulting isn't a business that you can start. You absolutely can start it. There's plenty of people out there who make tons of money off of designing surveys for people. In my case, it didn't work because my messaging didn't click with the people who need that service. So I'm not saying that these are not lucrative opportunities. It's just the way that I was messaging was not the right fit for the people who need that service. So when you're starting out, you probably have some ideas about what kind of work you want to do or who you think might want to hire you. But I want to emphasize that it's probably going to change. It may not, but it probably will. For most people, the services that you offer and how you talk about them in particular will change. And that's okay. That's what's supposed to happen, right? When we start developing our niche at the very beginning, it's going to be flexible. We are not setting anything in stone. And that is one of the most wonderful things about starting a business is that you control it all. If you decide one day that you hate editing and you don't want to offer editing services anymore, you just want to be a coach, you can do that. It's totally up to you. But we have to start somewhere. So when you are starting out, you want to identify as clearly and specifically as possible who you want to serve and what problems you want to help them solve. Those are the two big questions. And actually, if you go to acadiaediting.com/map, acadiaediting.com/map, I will also put that in the show notes. You can download my guide that's called my workbook that's called Map Your Academic Business. And it walks you through these two questions and a bunch more to help you develop your niche. So those two questions again are who do you want to serve and what problems do you want to help them solve? And again, we spent a few weeks in my program in BAE working on this together, narrowing it down. People start by listing their credentials, and then I say, let's peel away that onion. Let's get deeper on this and get to the core of really who it is that you're passionate about helping. And in addition to helping you define your niche, what we work on in the program, it also teaches you copywriting and messaging, which are skills that are priceless in owning a business, that you will use these skills for the rest of the life of your business. But for now, try journaling about the people that you want to help. Download that Map Your Academic Business workbook and answer those questions and journal about those questions. When you sit down to do this, instead of thinking about your credentials and what you're good at, think about the people you really care about. Think about who it is that is constantly on your mind. Think about what they are struggling with. What problems, what worries are keeping them up at night? What is constantly on their mind, stressing them out when they're supposed to be at their kids' soccer game, and then the back of their mind, instead of enjoying themselves and enjoying watching their child, in the back of my mind, they're fretting about, in the back of their mind, they're fretting about the paper they haven't published, or why they keep getting rejected, or why they haven't finished their dissertation yet, or whatever it is, right? Think about those people that you really care about, that you think you have a solution to their problem and you can help them. And don't write about how many papers you've published or how many statistics programs you know how to use. Write about their perspective. What is keeping them awake at night? What are the worries? What are the feelings and the emotions that are swirling around in their bodies? Get inside their head, be very vivid, be very specific, and write like as if you're journaling about these people, or think of a specific person who fits this group. And that is how we write in our marketing messaging, in our copywriting on our website, in our LinkedIn posts. And you will feel something as you're writing this, right? As you're writing about this person who is struggling with this thing, you will start to feel excited. You will start to feel passionate about helping them. And that's when you know that you're on the right track to discovering your niche. Let me give you a couple examples to hopefully think through this. So, something that a few people in my program have talked about wanting to help is the non-traditional scholar. So we use that phrase a lot in academia, but we can think of it in a lot of different ways. The non-traditional scholar could be somebody who's older. Maybe they are getting their PhD as a second career. Maybe they had kids younger and, had a full-time job and now they're wanting to go back to grad school, whatever it is, right? There's non-traditional in terms of age. But there's also non-traditional in terms of personalities and the way that people approach their research. And that kind of person is struggling with fitting in the very tightly structured academic environment. And so we all know that we go into academia with this excitement and wanting to change the world. And academia tells us that's not the way you're supposed to write. You're supposed to be objective. You're supposed to be very bland, very, well, they don't say it this way, but I'll say it. They're very boring, right? Very, especially if you're in the quantitative space, very regimented and clean. And it's about the science. It's not about the people in the world that you might be helping. We're supposed to be very objective, even in political science and the policy space. I was always confused as to why. I mean, I understood objectivity, but why aren't we actually relating this to the real world? Anyway, there are people who come into academia who really struggle to fit in because they want to do their research and their writing and their work differently. And it's hard. If you don't go with the flow, if you don't conform, it's hard. And so some of the folks in my program, these are the types of people they want to help, that we've talked about this being their niche, but approaching it from different ways. And so that's an example of a niche that you could start journaling about, is what it feels like to be a non-traditional scholar, whatever that looks like to you, however you want to classify that. And what are the feelings that they have? What are their daily struggles when they have to show up in their department and be ridiculed by their colleagues for not being the same, right? For being different, for standing out. The stresses that they face with trying to get tenure when it's harder to publish, when you're not this traditional, when you don't fit that mold. Another option for a niche is the mom who's trying to get tenure, who's utterly burnt out because she's juggling all the things and all the mental load, and she constantly feels like she's not good enough or like she's going to break because she's just on the verge of burnout. And how is she feeling going to bed at night, maybe sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night at the most because she's got so much to do and so much to take care of? What does that feel like? And actually, when I was starting out, I mentioned I thought I would be like this editor to quantitative social scientists. And what I found is that it was actually moms who were discovering me and hiring me predominantly. Not all of them. Not everybody was a mom, not everybody was a woman, but the vast majority of people who hired me were moms who were attracted to me because I talked about my life as a mom, not even realizing that that's what I was doing at the time was attracting these people to me. But I talked about my own experience as a mom, about having a 1 year old son and sleeping 2 hours a night and working 7 days a week. And that messaging ended up drawing these moms to me because they desperately wanted that relief. So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves too much. We're going to dive in deeper into all of this as we go through the episode. But those are just a couple of examples of how you can write very vividly and very specifically about people, your ideal clients, people who make up your niche, write about their feelings and their struggles and what we call their pain points rather than your credentials or their research or right. And you can certainly choose a niche based on a subfield or research, but again, you want to focus on what are they struggling with. After you flesh out this description of the person, the ideal client that will want to hire you, that you want to help, start journaling about the services you can offer them to help them find relief. And yes, you will have to think in terms of like coaching packages or editing packages. And, if you're going to be a dissertation coach, you'll have to think about meeting every 2 weeks for an hour for a semester, right? And what does that look like in terms of the amount of time you're spending, the services you're providing, and how much it's going to cost? Yes, that's part of it. But those are the details that come later, right? At this point, when you're thinking about your niche, you want to start journaling about the services you can offer, the framework that you can teach someone to help them find relief. And so if we think about our first example, I mentioned the non-traditional scholar who approaches their research in ways that are unique, in ways that don't fit the traditional academic mold. Maybe you offer them some type of coaching or writing support that helps them navigate this space, that helps them go to their department every day and not feel like they hate it, that helps them balance what publishers are looking for with still staying true to themselves and their voice. If you have been in this situation and you have solved this problem for yourself, you can teach those strategies to other people. So, write about the strategies, the framework, the relief that they will feel. What does their outcome look like? If they work with you, how are they going to feel when they're done? What will they have achieved? These kinds of narrative type descriptions of the experience of working with you and the outcome after they've worked with you. If you're in the second example of the burnout moms, the stuff that I always talked about was not that editing was going to clean up their manuscript and help them get published. It was that when you finished writing a paper, you're exhausted, and the last thing you want to do is look at the submission guidelines for a journal and start applying all those heading styles and reworking your references list and all that stuff. That's a headache. And instead of doing that, what you could do is you could hire me as your editor to take care of all those last minute details, to clean up the manuscript, to make sure everything is tight and looking the way it should. And while I'm doing that, you can go get a massage or you can go to your kid's soccer game and not think about it. And I talked a lot about lightening the load. So I knew that moms out there were carrying these heavy loads. And my argument was if you outsource those last minute details, that cleanup to me, you can lighten the load. You can let me lighten the load for you. You can take that time and go and enjoy yourself for once instead of being strapped to your desk trying to change all the font styles or remaking your tables or whatever it is, right? A scholar is responsible for the thinking and drafting the arguments and the theory and all of that. I can't do that for people. They have to do that for themselves. But what I can do is change their references list from APA to Chicago because that's just mind numbingly awful for someone to have to do after they've poured themselves into a paper. So that's the kind of stuff I want you to journal about at this stage. And once you have gotten clear on talking about the who and the what, or the who and the how, who are you going to help and how are you going to help them in a very clear, specific, vivid way, that is where your niche begins to take shape. Again, before we go on to the next part of this conversation, remember that none of this is set in stone. It's just a starting place. You can change it later. And we'll talk more about that in a second. Okay. Imagine a cycle. So I pulled up, I'll try to put this on the video on YouTube so you can see a visual. If you're listening on the podcast, imagine, so I pulled up Microsoft Word and used their, what is it, Word Art, where they have like, you can make different graphs and diagrams and things. And I use the one that is a cycle, right? It's got arrows moving around in a circle, and each arrow is a different stage in the cycle. And so it goes round and round, right? The first stage in the cycle is what I'm calling messaging. So you do all this work that we've just talked about to clarify your niche. You get your website up. Inside my program, BAE, I give you a template for drafting your website so you know exactly what information goes where and in what order on your homepage. And you do not need a bunch of different pages. You really just need a homepage to start. And so the first is messaging. So you take all of this journaling and you put it into LinkedIn posts. You put it on your homepage. You put it on your Instagram posts. Whatever you're doing, you message to these ideal clients that you've come up with to talk to them about their pain points, to talk to them and show them that you understand what they're struggling with and you can help them. You put it out there, you put it out there, you try different angles, you try different wording, but all variations on the same theme of your niche that you came up with. Then the next stage in that cycle is observe and listen. So as you're putting your messaging out there, maybe every day you make a short post on LinkedIn. Maybe depending on who you are in your schedule, maybe it's once a week. You write a longer post on LinkedIn. You observe after a few weeks, you observe who is getting in touch with you. What are they asking you to help them with? Is it the people that you had been targeting in your that you thought you were targeting in your initial messaging, or is it someone else? I want you to note here that, we think that if I only message to moms who are trying to finish their dissertation, that no one else will hire me, that men won't hire me, that, people without kids won't hire me, that people who are writing a journal article instead of a dissertation won't hire me. And I want you to note in this observation phase that that is not true. Different people who are outside that initial niche that you crafted for yourself, they will still contact you. And I want you to observe over this first, say, month of messaging, consistent messaging, not flooding the airwaves, not posting 20 times a day on Instagram. Just figure out what schedule works for you and go for it. And I have another episode that I can link to that gives you a messaging, social media posting, content creation strategy that doesn't burn you out. Who is responding? Who is your messaging resonating with? Who's hiring you? What are they asking you for? So in addition to observing these things, you need to listen to what they're telling you. What are they telling you they're struggling with? What kind of support do they think they need? Why did they decide to contact you? What led them to reach out? What about you or your website or your posts or whatever stood out to them? And what you will find is that people will usually just tell you this on their own. Hey, I saw your LinkedIn post and I love that you talked about such and such. But if they don't tell you that, you can ask them. When you have a discovery call with them for a coaching session or something, say, "Hey, what led you to reach out to me? What stood out to you?" And take notes on it. Collect data, right? We are all scientists of some kind, and this feedback loop process, the cycle that I'm describing to you, is exactly that. It is experimentation. And so you're putting out your messaging, you're collecting data by observing and listening. And then the next step in the feedback loop is to make some tweaks to your original messaging based on what you've observed and what people have told you. So maybe it's not moms who are reaching out to you, maybe it's grad students specifically. Think about why that might be. Think about what they've told you about their struggles and incorporate the exact language that they use in your new messaging and see what happens. And so that's what we call voice of customer research, is where we talk to people who hire us or who want to hire us, and we take their exact words about their struggles and the relief that they're looking for, and we use those words in our marketing, because when somebody reads that, it makes them feel like we're in their head, that we understand them, we get them. And that's what makes people hire us. So take what you've learned, incorporate it into your content, your messaging, make some small changes, talk about the pain points and the struggles, talk about the relief. If you work with me, I can help you, whatever. What is the desired outcome? And then again, the next stage in the cycle is observe and listen. What changes about who's contacting you? What are people saying is resonating for them? And that's why this is, I'm calling this a feedback loop, is because at every stage in the cycle, you are putting something out there, a test message or a set of test messages on a theme. You're collecting data and observing what happens and who responds to it. Then you're making changes and putting it out there again. Then you're observing and seeing what happens. Then you're making changes and putting it out there again, and on and on and on. And yes, eventually, I would say probably within 6 months of consistently doing this, you will have a really solid idea of the types of people who want to hire you, who do hire you, and what they need and what kind of services you want to offer. But something else that I will say while you're doing this is to think about yourself. So it's not, in this feedback loop, it's not just about what people want from you, what kind of help people want you to provide them. It's also about what's working for you. What do you love doing? What new ideas have you had since you started this business and this process in terms of the types of people you want to work with or the types of services that you want to offer? Many people in my program, as we're going through our 12-week group coaching cohort, they start out thinking they want to be a copy editor. And so they apply to editing agencies, and they get some private clients during the 12-week cohort, and they enjoy it. They like it. It's certainly better than academia, but they realize that they miss teaching, and they don't want to just be an editor who's strapped to their desk editing papers all the time. That maybe they want to do that some of the time, but they also want to, say, come up with a writing workshop. Or I have a client in our program he was in BAE and now he's in the Academic Entrepreneurs Studio, which is for more advanced business owners. And he's developing a writing retreat locally where he lives. And, that idea didn't exist until he was inside the program and started realizing what he could do, that he didn't just have to be an editor, a copy editor, what he didn't just have to work with people from his field. All of these doors and these opportunities and ideas suddenly opened up to him inside our community, and he now sees what's possible. And that's what you have to do as you're developing your niche, is what kinds of people are contacting you? What is it they say they need from you? And what do you love to do? Because again, if you are building a business, there is no point in building a business that you don't like. The whole reason to do all this work to build a business is to grow something that you love to get up every day and work on. So listen to yourself in this process. Don't be afraid to make changes. And again, I just want to emphasize the value of belonging to a community and having a coach who can help you navigate these very challenging stages early on. Okay, so we've talked about what niching down does not involve. We've talked about the initial two steps you can take with your journaling to start to develop your niche, the figuring out who it is you want to serve and what problems you can help them solve. Then we talked about the framework of the feedback loop for putting your messaging out there and observing and listening and making changes. Now I want to move to the broader, much more abstract question of what is it that people really want from your messaging and from how you talk to people that you think are in your niche. Now, I'm going to start this by saying I know I sound like I have it all figured out. I promise you I don't. I am not a marketing guru. I don't have all the answers. If you come to me and say, I want to start this business and work with these people, how should I talk about them? I can't tell you that. You have got to go through this process yourself and figure it out for yourself. And I can guide you and I can help you and I can share my thoughts, but I'm in the thick of this just like you are. I'm just about 12 to 18 months ahead of you. And I've learned a lot of the basics of marketing already. And I can share that information with you in a way that's easy for you to digest and to understand and doesn't rely on marketing jargon or business jargon. I know I talk like an academic, so hopefully that's helpful. But this is where I'm currently landing on this question of developing your niche. And I've been thinking about it a lot lately. And so the question is, what do people really want to hear from you in your messaging? And like we said earlier, it is not about your credentials. It's not about proving yourself. Your niche is, it can be defined by some demographic aspects or psychographic aspects, as we hear people say in the business world sometimes. You know, it could be the stressed out grad students or the burnt out moms or whatever. That's part of it. But really, what I think as of now that your niche is it is the set of people who are drawn to you, who feel connected to you, who feel on some kind of woo woo spiritual level that you can help them, that you are speaking directly to them. Maybe you can identify them, like I said, as being of a certain age or a certain field or subfield or something. But that's not why they hire you, right? They're not hiring you because you're a woman and you're a political scientist. They're hiring you, these people in your niche are hiring you because you make them feel something. Usually, that something is hope. It is the possibility of relief. No matter what service you're providing, no matter what it is that you're selling, whether it's editing or coaching or consulting or whatever, the reason that someone plunks down thousands of dollars for you to edit their dissertation or to help them establish a solid writing practice, or to help them reorganize their career so that they stop hating their life and start having more time for their family, or whatever it is, right? The reason that they pay you so much money to help them with these problems is because in your messaging and the way that you appear online, you show them that there is a solution to their struggles and that you can teach that solution to them. You are offering them the hope of relief. You are offering them the idea and the belief that there is an answer, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that they don't have to suffer like this forever. And so when somebody's out there and they are suffering and struggling and they see a post from you talking about how you face these same struggles and you overcame them, this doesn't have to be a creepy marketing post. It's a story about how you overcame these struggles. They're going to say in their mind to themselves, wow, I didn't realize that there was an answer to this problem. I am so tired. I am so exhausted. And this person has been through this and she survived. And she's thriving now and she's offering to help me. She's extending a hand to help me. That is the hope that they feel when they see your messaging and your marketing. And I want to be absolutely crystal clear here. We are not in the business of offering false hope. That is absolutely not what we do. When you are putting yourself out there and you are saying to people, I've been in your shoes, here's how I solve that problem, I can help you do the same, you are drawing on situations and a history and experiences that you personally have struggled with, whether it's writing or publishing or navigating these complex, toxic academic systems, and you've developed your own unique solution. Maybe it's a writing habit. Maybe, whatever the strategy is for helping them solve their problems. That solution isn't going to be right for everybody. The way that you talk about that solution isn't going to be right for everybody. It doesn't have to be, right? You are one person starting out in a very new business. You cannot serve everyone. If suddenly 1,000 people contacted you tomorrow, you wouldn't be able to help them. So we are not trying to help everyone. We are saying, I went through this struggle. I figured out an answer that worked for me. And if it sounds like the right fit for you, I can teach you that solution. I can help you through this process. And that is the product, quote unquote, that you are selling. That is what editing and coaching are. You excel at writing and editing. You excel at time management. You excel at strategizing about your academic career. You excel at applying for tenure, whatever it is. You excel at something that many other people out there are struggling with. They are just not good writers. They are just not good at navigating publishing or figuring out how to write a book or turn their dissertation into a book or choosing the right publisher. They are lost and they desperately need your help. And it might seem so easy to you that you think nobody's ever going to pay me for this. This is basic. But it's not easy for them. They're struggling. They're laying awake at night and they need your help. And that is what people are hiring you for. That is what your niche becomes. It is not the demographics and the psychographics necessarily. It is the collection of people out there who hear what you are saying and it makes them feel hope. And so that's what niching down will eventually become for you. And just to be clear, you're not going to achieve this in the first month of running your business because, as we said with the feedback loop, this is a process. It takes time. Around 6 months, if you've been doing this consistently, if you're working with a coach, if you have community support, you will start to be collecting enough data to have those answers becoming more clear for you. But it could take the first year or 2 years or 3 years to really have a sense of what your business is about and who you serve, and to consistently have the same types of people drawn to you. And maybe you change during that time, and that's okay. And so what I want you to take away from this episode is that it's all a process. We're not setting anything in stone, as I said. You are putting these little signals out there. You are seeing what works. You are collecting data, and you are learning to, most importantly, you are learning to talk about your business and what you do like a human being, like a person who is real, like a person who has feelings and emotions and fears and desires and solutions that you can teach to other people. And that is your niche, is the people who are drawn to you because of the way that you talk about and because of how passionate you are about your topic. Those are your ideal clients. Those are your niche. So, to wrap this up, what advice can I offer you on this very abstract, not at all concrete idea? I think at this point, and this is something that's evolving for me, of how to teach people to work like this, to message like this, to market like this. The best advice I can give you in your marketing is to be real, to be passionate, to be yourself. And that is one of the clichéest cliches there is. Be yourself. But it's true. It's true in this situation. You have to stop worrying about what people are going to think of you when you put yourself out there. You have to stop worrying about how are they going to react? What are my colleagues going to think when I say I'm an editor? What are my colleagues going to think when I say I'm leaving and I'm becoming a dissertation coach? Who cares? Who cares what they think? They're not paying your bills. They're probably treating you like crap anyway, right? Maybe they're not. Maybe they're nice. I have had nice colleagues. But the point is, you have a short life to live. Live it the way you want. Be who you are. Stop worrying about what people think of you. They don't matter. Nobody out there matters except you and your loved ones. And you have to start getting comfortable with speaking your mind, with speaking from your heart. You have to get comfortable with saying all the shit that we are all secretly thinking, but we're too scared to say out loud. I have had so many people come to me and say, thank you for talking about the problems in academia on this podcast, because we're all thinking it. Every one of us. It's been rare that I've had a couple of people who are happy in their academic jobs, but it's rare. We're all having the same thoughts and the same feelings. We just don't talk about it. And so we think it's just us. So whatever niche you are trying to serve, just be real, be yourself, say all those things that everybody else is too scared to say. Is everybody going to agree with you? No. Is everybody going to like your personality and your strategy and your approach? No. That's fine. They'll find somebody else to coach them or to edit for them. That's fine. That's why we are not in competition with each other as editors and coaches, is because we are all different. We all have different niches. We all have different types of people who are drawn to us. And you are unique, you are special, but again, none of us is so special that we're not all thinking the same things, right? We're all angry about something, we're all afraid of something, whether it's the publishing process, whether it's getting tenure, whatever it is. I guarantee you that whatever you have to say to the world that you're passionate about, there are other people out there who feel the exact same way, and they're just waiting for someone to speak up. So stop letting fear get in the way of your joy. Stop hesitating. Start speaking your values. Start speaking your truth. And those people out there who get you, the people who are also too scared to speak up, they will hear you and they will be drawn to you and they will appreciate your courage. They will see you as a model for them to follow, and they will hire you. So I'm usually, I'm sitting here behind my computer screen, behind my microphone, speaking into the void. My kids are home on a snow day right now. I have no idea what you think about any of this. So, if my last plea to you is if you like this podcast, if you have questions, if there are other topics you'd like me to cover in a future episode, please get in touch. Let me know. Leave a comment on a social media post, leave a comment on the YouTube video, send me an email, send me a DM on LinkedIn. I love hearing from folks who reach out and say they really enjoyed the episode or what, or maybe you hate it. I don't know. That's fine too. But let me know that you're out there listening, and I'll see you next week.
If you're unhappy in academia and you think you might be a good editor or writing coach, check out my course, Becoming an Academic Editor. This digital course is paired with a 12-week group coaching program to support you through your decision to leave academia or not, and to start building a profitable and rewarding academic editing business. Learn more by going to acadiaediting.com/become an editor. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time.